No one had ever heard of the Atchafalaya at that time, and we could go for weeks and not see another person. We built our own house on the water with a hammer, a borrowed ladder, and a handsaw. We stayed there almost 10 years. Our lives piqued the interest of strangers from all over the world who read about our simple home and wondered how we survived out there.
This program is brought to you by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Atchafalaya. It's the name the Choctaw gave this meandering Louisiana river almost 300 years ago. It snakes through more than 1 million acres of America's largest and most fertile river basin. Time is meaningless here, the passage of life fleeting. In all my years here, in the spring of my life, I hardly left a mark on this wild landscape. But this place left its mark on me and changed my life forever. If you can see the end of the road, I think I felt, why bother going down it? We only have one time we can go through life. And my fear was that I would not live. Getting to the end of the road in the old folks' home, sitting in the rocking chair and wondering what would have happened if. I got this message that said, "Did you know this is on newsstands?" And I opened it up and had no idea right at first what I was looking at. I nearly fell out of my chair. An email tells me this image is being published in a National Geographic collection of its 100 best pictures unpublished. It's one of the hundreds, perhaps thousands, snapped by my friend C.C. Lockwood during his many visits to our home in the Atchafalaya Basin in the 1970s. The first thing I did recognize was the light. And I thought, I haven't seen light like this since 30 years ago in the swamp. And then I recognized the bed and the mosquito netting, and there was something about those two faces that I couldn't look at them. It was too personal, because it wasn't my life anymore. So therefore, did it mean that wasn't me? The next thing I noticed was her skin. Her skin was so beautiful and smooth and tan, and I wanted to tell her, "Honey, wear sunscreen." If she could see our face today, maybe she would have listened. She used to think I was fat, and here I am, older, grayer, rounder, and I'm a lot happier in this body than she was. But she wouldn't believe me if I could tell her. As with the sunscreen, she'll just have to find out for herself. I was the first person in my mother's side of the family to even go to college, and I'd worked my way through college. It seemed sort of like a waste at that point that I would go to the woods, but it was still that I just wanted to learn. It was 1972, and I was just finishing up my master's degree in speech. I was 24 at the time, and the world just didn't seem like a welcome place.
Blunder in Vietnam.
The shooting started very suddenly.
The people of Louisiana aren't going to do it.
We can no longer foul our air without regard for the earth.
I grew up north of Baton Rouge, and my mother's family was from Bayou Chene. The people who settled in Bayou Chene were people of a frontier spirit. Land was very cheap out there. It was just wilderness. And even if you couldn't afford any land at all, you could still tie a houseboat up. I learned about Bayou Chene early in my life from my Grandma Josephine. Mama Josephine was born on Bayou Chene right around the turn of the century, and from the way she talked about Bayou Chene, that whenever Sunday school teachers would talk about heaven, that's what I would picture. This little community held together by bayous and little footpaths, but no roads coming in or out of it because it was in the middle of the swamp. I remember her saying how vegetables and fruit would grow so easily, and I did grow up with this having a mythical presence in my life, the Mother Earth that we all sprang from. And as I got older, I began to realize it was a very small part of not the universe, but even of Louisiana, and that other people didn't know about it, and that it didn't even really exist anymore. It was just land out there, that there were no more people. Most of their families moved to the high ground outside the levees after the Great Mississippi River flood of 1927. The Corps of Engineers flood control projects that followed turned the basin into a massive spillway. My mother's generation was a bridge between the generations that had lived in the swamp and the future. So they were all raised on the levee. And they just assumed that our family would keep moving away from the swamp. But then my old childhood friend Calvin invited me out in the basin, and it changed my life forever. I don't remember when I first met Calvin. All through my childhood, during the summers and holidays, we'd sit on Mama Josephine's porch in the swing and visit, and he would tell me about the basin, but I never did go over the levee. I never did see it. He had moved a house back into the swamp, the house that his parents had lived in right when I was getting out of graduate school. And he was telling me about how beautiful it was where he moved the house, and I just wanted to see it. And once I saw it and went that first time, I don't remember there being a conscious decision. I just kept going. I loved the smell of the water and the dense green growth and the deep black soil. It was a beautiful place to live in that old house. And when we lived on the bank, I could see staying there forever. And then the flood of 1973 went over the house in February. Just the top of the roof was showing. And we had to leave, and there was nowhere for us as a pair to go. Until that moment, he and I both had said, why would people ever leave this for civilization? And that at that moment we knew. And then just very quietly, Calvin said, what do you think about a houseboat? I said, not much. And he said, a big house on a big barge with lots of windows, and we'll even have a fireplace. It'll be better than this house. And I thought, well, why not? If he thinks we can do it, maybe we can, and what have we got to lose? And so we just put out the word to everyone that we knew that we were looking for a barge to buy, that we were looking for an old house to tear down so that we could get materials. And somehow we had to get the money to pay for it if it ever turned up. And we separated for a year and went to earn money. And it was in Christmas Eve, 74, that I was working on a riverboat, and he called me and said he had located a barge that we could afford. You can't separate your own youth from someone else's youth. It was just like anyone who's doing exactly what they want to do, and they're building a life together. It was a wonderful time. We had no idea how to build a house. We just drew one with some crayons. We had only a small paperback book called How to Build Your House in the Woods, and that's what we followed. We had only a hammer and a crowbar, I think. We had to borrow a ladder, and I think we even had to borrow a handsaw. And it was a time of anticipation and excitement and hard work. We would go to bed every night tired, and it would just feel so good. I don't even remember taking time to eat, and it didn't take but 7 months to do it, and it was beautiful to watch it come together. It was massive. When you say you live in a houseboat, people don't expect this large structure. The barge itself was 103 feet long. The porch was 20 by 20. The kitchen was 20 by 20. There were so many windows that there was just enough wall to hold up the roof. And the middle room had the old brick floor, and then the bedroom we painted white with towboat paint. And you could just light one little lamp and it would make the whole room so bright. The bed, like so much of what we did, was purely Calvin's creativity and energy. But it was a space-saving idea that he had. We would pull the bed up in the mornings and tie it off and then let it down at night. And in order to get a little breeze, you would just put your foot up on the rope and just push the rope with your foot, and it would make the bed rock. Anyone that ever slept in it said that it was the most comfortable sleeping. To me, it was the natural way to live. You wake up when the sun comes up. The amount of work I did in a day was not difficult because the time was set by my own body. And I don't think that is as tiring. If it was warm weather, we would jump off the barge and swim to the sandbar, and we would start our day by bathing and washing our hair over there on the sandbar. And then we'd swim back to the barge after we'd made our plans and get started on the day. If it was fishing, we would put whatever gear we needed. If it was net time, we would probably already have the nets out, or if we were putting nets out, we'd load these big hoop nets on the boat and then go out and run the nets or the lines or the crawfish traps. And Calvin usually went to sell fish by himself, and I would stay home and fix something to eat and do housework. And then he would come back and we would eat. The hunters would often give us deer and squirrel. Occasionally a trade from a towboat would give us a chicken. We didn't kill our chickens. We had a year-round growing season. We could grow anything every month of the year. We could grow something. During the winter we would have salad greens, which we grew actually on the barge in boxes. And in the garden we would have all of our mustard greens and green onions and collards and turnips and those things. Then later in the summer we'd have tomatoes and peppers and squash and beans. And in the fall the pumpkins would come in, and we would can just about everything. We even made our own ketchup. And it took me a long time to eat bought ketchup. It tastes so overcooked when you're used to really good homemade ketchup.
Well, hello, I'm Clay Fourier, friend of LPB, and you're watching the LPB documentary, Atchafalaya Houseboat. Now, we will meet Gwen Rowland herself, as well as the film's producer, Christina Melton, in just a moment. But first, it is during this break that we are asking you, our viewers, who appreciate LPB's ability to tell stories such as this, to help us produce, yes, even more. Now, you can do that with your pledge online right now at lpb.org, or simply call us or text GIVE to 888-769-5000. Or here's something new, scan that QR code that you see at the bottom of the screen. Before we hear about the thank you gifts offered during this broadcast, I have a very special member challenge to tell you about. Now, Margaret Brinkhouse, Paul George, Roy Odom, Nancy Russell, Barney Stewart, and Kathleen Wadsworth are matching dollar for dollar the first $1,500 during this program. Now, this is going to make your donation worth twice as much to LPB. And to thank you, let's take a look at those great thank you gifts that we have for our pledge tonight.
For a $20 monthly donation, you will receive the Atchafalaya Houseboat Combo that includes a DVD of the program you are watching, the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by author Gwen Rowland, the audio book Atchafalaya Houseboat, and the book Louisiana Wild, The Protected and Restored Lands of the Nature Conservancy, signed by photographer C.C. Lockwood. For $9 per month, receive the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by Gwen Rowland. For $8 a month, receive Atchafalaya Houseboat as an audiobook. Or for just $6 per month, receive a DVD of this documentary you are watching. You may choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB. Simply call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000, give online at lpb.org, or scan the QR code on your screen with your smart device to become a friend of LPB today.
Well, welcome back to the studio, everyone. I have with me here Christina Melton, the producer of this fantastic documentary. Christina, let me ask you something. How did you come up with this idea? How did this all begin?
Well, I had just wrapped up production on another documentary for LPB, post-Katrina.
Okay.
And which was a tough one to produce.
I bet it was.
It was. It was really emotionally draining. And I was walking through the bookstore and stumbled across Gwen Rowland's beautiful, small, perfect little book, and just was thumbing through it and thought about what an enchanting story it would be. And the very next day I was driving my children home from school and heard her tell her story about how this book came to be on NPR. And the NPR interview, I nearly drove off the road. It was so wonderful, and immediately came in and went to Beth Courtney and said, we have to do a documentary on this.
Well, considering all the signs were there, you know what I'm saying? Well, you know what? We've got something very special via Georgia Public Broadcasting. We've got Gwen Rowland right now in the studio over there. And if you will, there she is right there. Hiya, Gwen.
Hey, Clay, how you doing?
Doing good. Christina and I are here in the studio, and we certainly wanted to get your input on this fantastic documentary. So, Christina, you've got a couple of questions you want to ask her. Why don't you ask her one of those?
Gwen, this was such a wonderful time and such a perfect opportunity to connect with you and meet you and get to know you. I just wanted to ask you, what were some of your very fondest moments in living in the basin? What you enjoyed most about the life you had there?
Ooh, at that time I would have to say freedom, because I'd been in school since I was 5 years old, so, you know, that was almost, 18 years that I'd been in school with everybody who was a grade older than me telling me what to do. So when I went to the swamp, it was my first chance to just be free and be me. And instead of stepping right into a job where someone was telling me what to do, Calvin and I every day could just make our plans and decide how we were going to achieve these goals and just do them at our own pace. That was just wonderful for someone at that age. And then I guess other than the freedom, the catfish and crawfish are my fondest memories. Just most any day of the year we could have either catfish or crawfish to eat. And there's not many places you can do that.
Well, Louisiana is certainly one of them. And Clay, I love listening to Gwen tell her story in this program. It was such a gift.
Oh, it was. It's a gift for everyone out there in the state to have this program here. And you know, we would like to produce more programs like this, but we can only do it with your pledge of support. So if you would, call us right now or text GIVE to 888-769-5000. You can go online to lpb.org, make that pledge of support. We have the QR code right here. And besides the programming, some great thank you gifts. Let's take a look.
For a $20 monthly donation, you will receive the Atchafalaya Houseboat Combo that includes a DVD of the program you are watching, the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by author Gwen Rowland, the audiobook Atchafalaya Houseboat, and the book Louisiana Wild, The Protected and Restored Lands of the Nature Conservancy, signed by photographer C.C. Lockwood. For $9 per month, receive the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by Gwen Rowland. For $8 a month, receive Atchafalaya Houseboat as an audiobook. Or for just $6 per month, receive a DVD of this documentary you are watching. You may choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB. Simply call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000, give online at lpb.org, or scan the QR code on your screen with your smart device to become a friend of LPB today.
Okay, so Christina, great gifts out there, but we've got something very special I want to tell everyone about. It's a great credit card offer. Now, for a pledge of $400 or more, and you use Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover, you will receive an original Pelican painting by local Lake Charles artist Eddie Mormon. Now, the size is 8 by 10, but it is available now for that credit card pledge of $400 or more if you call in right now. Now, in addition to those wonderful gifts, you're going to receive Visions Magazine, LPB's monthly program guide, along with Louisiana Life Magazine, and our popular member benefit, of course, LPB Passport. But enough about that. Let's get back to the program. Let's get back to talking to Gwen about that. I know you have another question to ask her.
Yes, Gwen. So as we're looking back at this, it's such an amazing thing to think about this time of your life. And then now, years later, what is it that when you look back you miss the most about your life in the Atchafalaya Basin?
You know, my life now is so similar to the way it was in the basin that the lifestyle is very similar. And I guess the only thing that I don't have where I am now is that wonderful smell. That smell that when you start approaching the levee, I think it's a mix of cypress and willow trees and the water and the fish that you just identify as that's the basin.
That's something I really hadn't thought about before, the smells of that place and those fantastic smells. And I think that's part of the whole sensory system with regards to knowing what a place is about. And I got to tell you, a sense of place is definitely in that documentary that you put together. It's fantastic. Again, if you want us to do more programming like this, you need to call us right now at 888-769-5000. And by the way, this is the member challenge, so this is a great time to call. I wanted to mention that we've got Margaret Brinkhouse, Paul George, Roy Odom, Nancy Russell, Barney Stewart, and Kathleen Wadsworth, and they're proud to support the programming on LPB, just like what you're watching here tonight, and are challenging all viewers to donate tonight, and they will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500. That is going to effectively double your pledged dollars to us here at LPB to help talented producers just like this one right here to produce more great programming here on LPB. And I'm sure you've got yet another question to ask Gwen, so why don't you go ahead.
Sure, Gwen. Working on this program with you was so much fun. Did you have any particular memories about our production experience that really stuck out to you in doing this, looking back?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That peach pie. I still tell people about the peach pie I made for our supper that night. That's right. And Rex was the cameraman. Right. And the four of us ate all but one piece of that fabulous pie, and the next morning he wanted it for breakfast, and we all reluctantly let him have it. Do you remember that?
I do. We were all fighting over it, for sure. But Rex won out.
And yeah, he did. He had the camera. The other thing I remember most was going to the basin, and the mosquitoes were just so much worse than I remembered. And I also just loved being with Calvin and Cece again. It was just so much fun after all those years to be together.
Well, and I know that in filming this was one of the first times you had the opportunity to connect with Calvin and Cece again. Can you describe what that moment was like? That was a really powerful moment for all of us who were on the set.
It was. We definitely had tears involved. And in just a few minutes, it was just so natural and just so good to be out there again. And now, since the documentary, we go to Baton Rouge and see Calvin and Kathy whenever we go, and it's just always wonderful to be with them and go out in the boat or just sit around their house and just enjoy the beautiful plants that he grows and stuff. As far as Cece, we're mostly email friends. We email about chickens pretty regularly. A lot of emails about snakes and hawks and chickens, and because we're both big chicken fans.
That's great.
That is great. I love all these insightful stories here, especially Rex wanting that pie. So we want to give you more programs like this and maybe share some more interesting stories like this, but we're going to do it with our pledge of support, 888-769-5000. You can text GIVE to that number, go on lpb.org, make that pledge of support, or use the QR code. We have some great thank you gifts. Let's take a look at them one more time.
For a $20 monthly donation, you will receive the Atchafalaya Houseboat Combo that includes a DVD of the program you are watching, the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by author Gwen Rowland, the audio book Atchafalaya Houseboat, and the book Louisiana Wild, The Protected and Restored Lands of the Nature Conservancy, signed by photographer C.C. Lockwood. For $9 per month, receive the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by Gwen Rowland. For $8 a month, receive Atchafalaya Houseboat as an audiobook. Or for just $6 per month, receive a DVD of this documentary you are watching. You may choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB. Simply call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000, give online at lpb.org, or scan the QR code on your screen with your smart device to become a friend of LPB today.
So, Christina, great gifts. And, of course, we got that great credit card special. I want to mention that one more time. For this is a credit card pledge of $400 or more on Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. You'll receive this original Eddie Mormon Pelican painting. Now, Eddie Mormon, as you might know from, of course, Art Rocks, is a Lake Charles artist. He's contributed many times before. We want you to have this. Call us right now at the number you see on your screen and get this fantastic, fantastic painting. And, of course, this is also the member challenge, and you've got some info on that.
Yes, we have a generous challenge tonight from some of LPB members: Margaret Brinkhouse, Paul George, Roy Odom, Nancy Russell, Barney Stewart, and Kathleen Wadsworth. These members are especially proud to support programs like Atchafalaya Houseboat on LPB, and they're challenging all viewers to donate during the program, and they'll match your donations for the first $1,500 if you call during this program. So we appreciate them, and we appreciate you.
Okay, so we're not going anywhere. There's more of the program to see. Gwen's going to still be around for some more questions from Christina. We'll get some more wonderful insights like that. But if you would, please, right now, especially during the member challenge, call us at the number you see on your screen. There it is right there, 888-769-5000. You can text that number with GIVE to, along with lpb.org, or scan that QR code. Let's get back to the program.
There was nothing that we felt afraid of when we lived in the swamp. People often ask me about dangers, and actually the only things that I can remember that could have been dangerous would have been a cut from the brush hook or a chainsaw accident. Oh, there were snakes and alligators. We could stand on the barge and see 10, 12 at a time. Beautiful big banded water snakes would just lie in the sun all around the barge on the logs, but they're not poisonous. And the only poisonous snakes we had to worry about out there were copperheads and cottonmouths. And the copperheads were so shy, I don't think we saw but one or two the whole time we were there. Being a wilderness situation, there was not a lot we had to go outside for in the wintertime. You know, in Louisiana it starts raining in November, and from what I remember it rains all the way through until March. If it was wintertime and high water, we would probably have wood to cut, because if the water was level with the ground, it was much easier to load the wood and unload it. We would have the wood stove in the kitchen and the fireplace in the middle room, the library. And I felt like we were plenty warm enough. And then summertime, there were a few nights that it would be so hot that it was difficult to sleep. When I went to the swamp, I didn't want a community. I just wanted it to be Calvin and me, nobody else. But the few people who were out there were accustomed to being a community and being neighborly. In the vast area of the Atchafalaya where we were living, there were 3 single elderly men living in different places and 1 elderly couple. And that was all that lived out there day and night. Alcide Verrett was born in the swamp. He was born, he used to say, in 1900, and he died in 1998, just short of his 99th birthday. He was raised around Bayou Chene and didn't get a chance to go to college, even though he was a very smart man. He was one of the smartest people I ever met. He seemed like such a larger-than-life person, just telling these stories in this booming voice. Alcide was unique in that he would actually cook a banquet every day in hopes somebody would come. And it works. If people find out you cook a banquet every day, you will have company. People would come to visit and eat and just stay for hours. And that's when we heard all kinds of wonderful stories. We had an unusual variety of visitors, people that you just wouldn't have expected to find us. And one of those we just stumbled upon one Sunday afternoon. We were sitting on Peter Bunch's porch, and this very sunburned young man with white blonde hair, he was riding in 2 canoes strapped together to make a boat. And he stood up in the canoes and said, "Which way is Buffalo Cove?" And Peter Bunch said, "That boy's crazy. I wouldn't even go down there if I was you." But we were so happy to see someone our age, and we were so intrigued that we went down there to meet him. And his name was C.C. Lockwood, and he wanted to be a wildlife photographer, capturing the beauty of the basin. And this was something we wanted to hear, because so many times when Calvin and I were fishing in some beautiful place, one of us would turn to the other one and say, "You know, somebody ought to take pictures of this place." After that first visit, he would come every few weeks, maybe every few months, and he would visit with us. And he would tell us what he was doing back in civilization. These announcements from him about the outside world became grander and grander, until finally one day he came and said, "National Geographic is going to pay me to do a story, a photographic story about the Atchafalaya Basin, to catalog life in the basin in the 1970s. The article was about the trouble that the basin was in and the arguments that were going on both sides on the best way to save the basin because it was silting up. They interviewed the Corps of Engineers, fishermen, indigenous people like us. It was met with a lot of enthusiasm. We got mail from as far away as India and California, and there was no mailing address for us in there. People just sent letters and cards to Calvin and Gwen, Atchafalaya Basin. Well, there are so many people interested in what we're doing. So many people were asking questions. I thought, I'll just write my own story and put it in the local newspaper. And that way I can answer everybody's questions at once. After that first article that I wrote, it was as if everything I looked at after that was in story form. Calvin and I talked about it all the time. We would talk about how would we describe what it's like shad dipping. And this particular cove where it was so quiet that you could think you would hear the world turning. That's how quiet that place was. We would talk about songs, we would talk about things we'd read, we'd talk about old people, and I wonder how they did this or that in the old days. Things that really, the thinking of it doesn't get you anywhere. The sort of downtime where your brain isn't really busy solving a problem, and you can just wonder. Like with other relationships, we drifted apart. We found ourselves in a situation where we needed money. And I took a job on a towboat to make some money because one of our dogs got injured. And while I was on this boat, I fell in love with the man I would later marry. And after about a year of trying to stay back in the swamp again, I realized I had to leave and marry this other man. And Calvin eventually found love elsewhere too. When I left the swamp, I closed the door on that and just sort of pretended it never happened. I think I'll always be a writer. These days I write about rural life. I live here on a farm in Georgia with my husband Preston, raising chickens and goats, tending my garden's heirloom tomatoes and snap peas. I've helped establish several local farmers markets here. I've had so many wonderful experiences in the years since I left the swamp. From living in the Florida Everglades, to traveling the country making folk dancing documentaries, to editing an international scuba diving magazine. I could never have predicted the path my life has taken. But really, these days, my lifestyle isn't all that different from 30 years ago. There's something reassuring about the turning of the seasons. Spring to summer, summer to autumn, autumn to winter. It's funny how life can circle back on itself. It's been almost 30 years since I've seen Calvin. When our photograph showed up National Geographic all of a sudden, a lot of people wanted to know whatever happened to us in our houseboat. I'm not sure any of us would have ever gotten in touch again if it hadn't been for that photo. It was just so long ago. Preston and I went back to see Calvin and to meet Kathy and to visit the spot we had lived all those years ago. Yep, this is where we used to live. This is the first place. So our house was right here.
Yeah.
Let's just run over there and see if we can see anything. It was great to go back out there and see that I really didn't have any effect on it. Was that from where our garden was?
I don't think so. I don't think we were that far over. I don't know.
The basin is turning back into wilderness, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't remember me. So I guess you'll be coming out here this weekend?
Yeah, if I'm not stuck working.
So many things in our lives change and are altered to where they're not even recognizable. But I think everybody needs some place that's a constant, that will always be the same whenever they go back to it. And for me, that's the basin. Yep.
I forgot about that picture.
Shed dipping right there. Look at Cece as a youngster. It's been so nice to see old friends after such a long time.
When I wasn't sleeping on the porch of your barge, or later in my houseboat, that's how I stayed. I had that orange bag, when I had that red eye chest my cameras in.
So this was the first time we saw you.
The worst thing I remember about that is y'all accused me of being lost. I've never been lost in my life.
Wasn't that the day you were asking us where Buffalo Cove?
I still wasn't lost, though.
Do you remember the first time you saw it?
It all blends together, but all I remember, it was such a peaceful boat. Really, one of the nicest homes I've ever been in.
Well, you've managed to hold on to a lot of this kind of life, haven't you?
Yeah. I guess I was just born into it. Just part of me.
I didn't want to go back and revisit all that. It was too painful. But now, having gone back in my mind and to reconnect with Calvin and with you, I've come to see just the bigger picture of it, that everything you do in life is going to count. It's going to change you. It's going to make you who you are later on. And nothing's ever wasted. To go to the swamp at that age was a way to truly find out my strengths, what I really was. When I see that young woman today, the things I admire about her that I still admire about the older woman is that her curiosity always outweighed her fear of failure. I know now that it doesn't mean, just because I didn't recognize her and she was young, that is still me. That person, that young person, is still on the inside. And I realize now that we take that young person, if we want to, we take them into the rest of our life with us.
This program is brought to you by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Well, hello and welcome back. I'm Clay Fourier, friend of LPB, and welcome to the LPB studios during this special broadcast of Atchafalaya Houseboat. Now, it is during our membership drive that you hear extra insights about what you see on Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Now, we will hear more from our special guest in just a moment. It is past viewer support that has made this documentary possible. So help us to tell the next Louisiana story, would you? Call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000. Or you can go online to our secure service at lpb.org, or simply scan that QR code that you see on your screen right there. Before we hear about the thank you gifts, remember that the Member Challenge is happening right now. Margaret Brinkhouse, Paul George, Roy Odom, Nancy Russell, Barney Stewart, and Kathleen Wadsworth are matching dollar for dollar the first $1,500 called in during this program. Now, this makes your donation worth twice as much to LPB. Okay, let's take a look at the thank you gifts that we will have tonight for your pledge of support. Take a look.
For a $20 monthly donation, you will receive the Atchafalaya Houseboat Combo that includes a DVD of the program you are watching, the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by author Gwen Rowland, the audio book Atchafalaya Houseboat, and the book Louisiana Wild, The Protected and Restored Lands of the Nature Conservancy, signed by photographer C.C. Lockwood. For $9 per month, receive the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by Gwen Rowland. For $8 a month, receive Atchafalaya Houseboat as an audiobook. Or for just $6 per month, receive a DVD of this documentary you are watching. You may choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB. Simply call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000, give online at lpb.org, or scan the QR code on your screen with your smart device to become a friend of LPB today.
Okay, well, we're back here in the studio. Christina Melton, producer of this fine show, is back here with us. I know you produced it, but there's a lot of other people that were involved with it, right?
As with any LPB production, there are always it's always a team effort, and Rex Fortenberry was the primary photographer and editor. Right. Keith Cruz actually went out in the field with us a couple of times.
Okay.
And then Mike Esnault, of course, won an Emmy Award for the soundtrack from this program, and he is such a talented contributor to many LPB programs.
He really is.
We appreciate him tremendously.
You know, you mentioned awards, and we have a lot of award-winning programming here on LPB, but we can only do it with that pleasure support from you. So call that number you see on your screen, 888-769-5000. Use the QR code right below, or go to lpb.org. And of course, we got Gwen. She's there at Georgia Public Broadcasting. I want to thank them again for helping us get in touch with her over here. So let's ask her another question, shall we?
Sure, Gwen. One of the things that we were always interested in asking, or I'm sure you get this question a lot from people who aren't from Louisiana and see this program, did you have any harrowing experiences during your life in the swamp?
Wow. You know, considering what our life was like, very few harrowing experiences. We traveled by boat every day. We lived on a houseboat, but only one of us fell off one time. We only sunk our boat one time. And we handled sharp tools every day. We used kerosene, propane, gasoline. We were remarkably fortunate because I know that the Bayou Chene community when there was a real community out there. A lot of people died and were severely injured from all of those things that we did every day. So we were incredibly fortunate. Really, I just racked my brain and couldn't think of anything harrowing, but the closest thing was just kind of spooky. The night that we stayed all night on Charlie Miette's houseboat, and I heard footsteps and the door opening, and there was nobody there. I thought it was Calvin. I heard the boots walk back to the pallet where we were sleeping, and I said, well, are you going to get back in the bed? And then I thought, well, why did he put his boots on just to walk 6 steps to the door? And that was when I turned around and saw he was sound asleep. And there was nobody in that tiny little houseboat with us, and there was nobody for miles and miles around. And there was just no other explanation except that Charlie Miette's spirit must still walk there. And when I woke Calvin up and told him what I heard, he said, yeah, don't worry about it. Lots of people have heard that.
The ghost of Charlie Miette.
Oh, wow. Listen, there's going to be more insightful little tidbits just like that. That's a great story. But we wanted to remind all you folks out there to give us a call right now, because we've got more stories, more Louisiana stories that we want to tell, but we can only do it with that pledge of support from you. 888-769-5000, online at lpb.org. You can text GIVE to that number I just mentioned. Go to that QR code, and we have some fantastic thank you gifts. So let's take a look at those right now.
For a $20 monthly donation, you will receive the Atchafalaya Houseboat Combo that includes a DVD of the program you are watching, the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by author Gwen Rowland, the audio book Atchafalaya Houseboat, and the book Louisiana Wild, The Protected and Restored Lands of the Nature Conservancy, signed by photographer C.C. Lockwood. For $9 per month, receive the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by Gwen Rowland. For $8 a month, receive Atchafalaya Houseboat as an audiobook. Or for just $6 per month, receive a DVD of this documentary you are watching. You may choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB. Simply call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000, give online at lpb.org, or scan the QR code on your screen with your smart device to become a friend of LPB today.
Great thank you gifts. Thanks everyone out there who's calling in. Really appreciate it. We have a very special thank you gift offer for a credit card pledge of $400 or more. Now we'll accept Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover, and for that pledge of $400 or more, you'll receive the original Pelican painting by local Lake Charles artist Eddie Mormon. It's an 8x10. It will look beautiful in your home, but it's only available for that credit card pledge. So call us right now at the number you see on your screen. There it is, 888-769-5000. Go to lpb.org, make that pledge of support. Text GIVE to 888-769-5000 or the QR code you've got right there on your screen. And Christina, I wanted to mention one more time about the Member Challenge. So listen, folks, here you go. It's the Member Challenge where Margaret Brinkhouse and Paul George, Roy Odom, Nancy Russell, Barney Stewart, and Kathleen Wadsworth are proud to support the programming just like you're seeing here tonight on OPB. They're going to challenge you guys out there to donate tonight, and they will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500 that's called in, but that's during this program only. Now that in effect is going to double that donation and help us make more Louisiana great programs here on LPB. Let's get some more of those insights. Christine, you got another question for that, Gwen?
Sure, Gwen. One of the things I'm sure you are asked a lot is what would have happened if you had stayed in the swamp, and what would you have missed out on in your life now if you had stayed in the swamp?
Yeah, the first one, none of us will never know the answer to, will we? But as far as what I would have missed out on, it's funny, the first thing that popped into my head was dance. There would have been no way that I would have had a dance group if I'd stayed in the swamp. I never would have even learned to dance. And for most of my life out of the swamp, I was involved with English country dancing and contra dancing. And everywhere we lived, I started a dance group and led the one locally here for 20 years until I retired. And I just can't imagine not having dance in my life. I would have missed that so much. And 60 foster dogs would have had a less certain future if I had stayed in the swamp. And it's odd, the things when you get my age that comes to your mind that you're glad you did or that you regret you did. And those 60 foster dogs come to mind often. I don't think I've forgotten the name of one of them or their faces. And probably I would have missed out on a lot of spontaneity and curiosity. I just loved those 10 years or so that Preston and I lived in a way that one of us might say, I wonder what it would be like to be such and such or do such and such. And the other one would start packing the truck and looking for a map. And once you get a homestead, you don't have that kind of spontaneity. And I would have really missed out on that. I'm glad I had that opportunity.
Well, speaking of packing the truck up, we understand that you are going to be featured as the East Baton Rouge Parish Library's 16th annual One Book, One Community, which we're so thrilled for you. Yes. And you'll be in Baton Rouge for folks who are going to be here in April 23rd. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. It's 2 months of activities in book clubs and different groups, libraries, schools. We'll be doing activities around the swamp and living close to the earth as they read the book and get inspired to do things. There's going to be musical events and different talks by other authors like Lockwood and other people. But I will come in at the tail end of it on April 23rd and April 24th. I'll have a slide presentation at the main library on Saturday, and then have a question and answer period afterwards. And that's mostly going to be about not just how Calvin and I built the houseboat in our day-to-day life, but my life living close to nature my entire life. The few times I have not lived close to nature were the saddest and the least productive of my life. And this started when I was very little, and Mom would take us to the woods so we wouldn't wake up Daddy, and because we lived in 2 rooms, so the only way to get us out of trouble was to take us to the woods every day. And that kind of life has always just been natural to me, to just be at home in the woods. And so there will be that kind of information in that presentation. And then the next day I'll be talking about passing it on, and it's another slideshow, and it's about passing on your family stories and recipes and traditions and rituals and how it enriches your life. This has been a big part of my life where I live now, not just the dance, but jelly making and gardening and horseback riding. People just always come to see us to learn that kind of stuff, and I just love teaching them.
It's such a gift, Clay, and Absolutely. We have some more gifts.
We do have some great gifts, so let's take a look at those one more time.
For a $20 monthly donation, you will receive the Atchafalaya Houseboat Combo that includes a DVD of the program you are watching, the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by author Gwen Rowland, the audiobook Atchafalaya Houseboat, and the book Louisiana Wild, The Protected and Restored Lands of the Nature Conservancy, signed by photographer C.C. Lockwood. For $9 per month, receive the book Atchafalaya Houseboat, My Years in the Louisiana Swamp, signed by Gwen Rowland. For $8 a month, receive Atchafalaya Houseboat as an audiobook. Or for just $6 per month, receive a DVD of this documentary you are watching. You may choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB. Simply call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000, give online at lpb.org, or scan the QR code on your screen with your smart device to become a friend of LPB today.
So what they need to do is, the viewers out there need to take this book home with us. This story needs to be read over and over again. By the way, the copies that you get from LPB, they're going to be signed along with C.C. Lockwood's book as well. So Christina, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Okay, and Gwen, thank you so much for being here.
It was so much fun. Thank you for having me, Clay.
Okay. And thanks all of you who have called in. If you haven't yet, you still have a chance right there. Thanks, everyone.